The afternoon unfolded like something out of a suburban postcard. Sunlight dappled through maple branches, wind chimes whispered in the breeze, and the distant hum of lawnmowers mixed with the smoky scent of someone grilling a few blocks away. On the porch of a modest but well-kept home at the end of Bluebird Lane, Lena Wyatt smiled softly as she arranged lunch on a small table, turkey wraps for herself, peanut butter sandwiches for her son Noah, and 2 mason jars filled with lemonade clinking with ice. Noah, just 10, sat cross-legged at the edge of the driveway with chalk in both hands, drawing winding train tracks in colorful arcs that looped around his sneakers. He was humming to himself, not a tune, just a rhythm, gentle and consistent. It wasn't unusual. Noah was autistic, and while verbal communication came hard, sounds were his safe space. His humming wasn't noise, it was language. It was comfort. "You're doing great, buddy," Lena said as she stepped down from the porch barefoot, feeling the warm concrete under her feet. Noah didn't answer. He just smiled, eyes locked on his tracks as if laying down railroads for a dream only he could see. Then the street changed. A matte black SUV rolled slowly around the corner and up the road, moving not like it belonged, but like it was inspecting what did. It didn't park in the driveway, it stopped diagonally across it, grinding its tires right over Noah's chalk tracks. The humming stopped. Lena's smile faded. 2 men stepped out. Their clothing screamed imitation. Black tactical vests with the words, HOA enforcement, emblazoned in white block letters. No patches. No badges. No names. "Can I help you?" Lena asked, stepping forward, tension stiffening her spine. The bigger of the 2, a red-faced man with a thick neck, held up a clipboard. "We've received multiple complaints about noise violations coming from this address." "Noise?" Lena repeated. "What kind of noise?" The other man, leaner and twitchy, pointed straight at Noah. That's screeching." "He's not screeching," Lena snapped. "He's autistic. That's called stimmying. It helps him regulate." "Doesn't matter," the first man muttered. "This neighborhood has rules. We're here to enforce them." "You have no right," Lena shot back. "You're not police. You're not even HOA. You don't enforce anything." "He needs to learn silence," the man grunted. Then it happened. Without a word, the bigger man stepped forward and kicked Noah hard in the shin. The boy screamed a high, sharp, piercing cry of shock and pain as he tumbled backward, scraping his palms on the driveway. His chalk scattered like confetti. He flailed, his body reacting before his mind could catch up. "No!" Lena screamed and ran toward him, but the second man shoved her aside. She stumbled into the porch railing, grabbing it to stay on her feet. Noah was crawling now, his sobs rising, his fingers shaking as they tried to touch the pain in his leg and his chest at the same time. "You monsters!" Lena yelled, voice cracking. "Get away from him!" The men didn't back off. They didn't even flinch. And then a third voice cut through the yard like a blade. "Step away from my grandson." The words weren't shouted. They were spoken low and cold and final. Everyone froze. Lena turned. At the far end of the yard, beyond the flower bed and ivy-covered trellis, stood a man in his late 60s. He wasn't tall. He wasn't broad. But the way he stood made the air heavier. His hands hung loosely at his sides, and his gaze was locked on the 2 men like he was calculating angles. It was Lena's father, Henry Wyatt, Noah's grandfather. He wore a pale blue collared shirt tucked neatly into gray slacks, sensible shoes, and an expression that could turn steel to steam. He took 1 step forward. The 2 men hadn't moved. "You just assaulted a disabled child," Henry said, voice even. "And you impersonated law enforcement." The men scoffed. "Mind your business, old man." Henry's eyes flicked to their vests. "Wearing fake authority is one thing," he continued, tone never rising. "Hurting my grandson is something else entirely." The tension shifted. Lena could feel it in her bones. Noah had gone quiet, his tears still streaked down his cheeks, but his body was still. He was watching Henry now, his hands pressed to his knees, eyes wide. "You better back off," the bigger man snarled, reaching toward his belt. "You've made a mistake," Henry replied, stepping onto the lawn. "A serious one." Then the taller man lunged, sloppy, brash, untrained. Just a punch thrown by a thug who thought he could intimidate anyone. Henry moved like water. He sidestepped, caught the man's wrist midair, twisted, and shifted his shoulder forward. The man flew sideways into the fence with a crack of splintering wood and a grunt as the air rushed out of his lungs. Before the second man could process what had happened, Henry was on him, a pivot, a sweep, and an elbow to the throat that dropped the guy to his knees. Then Henry slid behind him and laid him gently, almost respectfully, face down in the grass, his arm pinned behind his back. It had taken maybe 7 seconds. Lena's mouth hung open. "Dad." "Check Noah," Henry said calmly, never looking away from the men. Lena dropped to her knees beside her son. He was shaking, but he nodded when she touched him. He reached for her sleeve with both hands. His fingers flexed over and over, his way of staying grounded. Henry crouched beside the bigger man who was now groaning. "Let me be clear," he said, quiet and close. "I don't know what scam you're running, but if you ever put hands on my family again, you won't be able to walk away next time." He stood and pulled a flip phone from his pocket, simple, ancient by modern standards. "No apps. Just function." 911, what's your emergency?" "Yes, this is Henry Wyatt. I'm at 229 Bluebird Lane. 2 individuals posing as law enforcement just assaulted my autistic grandson. One has minor injuries. The other may have a concussion. Send officers." "Are they armed?" "No. And no, they won't be going anywhere." He snapped the phone shut and turned to Lena. "You okay?" Lena nodded slowly. "I didn't know you were coming today." "I was early," Henry said. "Thought I'd surprise you both." "Well, you did." Sirens echoed faintly in the distance, growing louder. "You're dead, old man," the groaning man wheezed. "We got connections." Henry looked down at him like he was staring at a broken vending machine. "You're not even worth paperwork," he muttered. Squad cars arrived fast, screeching up to the curb. Real police, real uniforms, real authority. One officer raised his voice, "Hands where we can see them." Henry calmly lifted his palm. "I'm the one who called. These 2 assaulted a child and are impersonating law enforcement." The officers moved in quickly, scanning the scene. One of the suspects lay still. The other coughed, curled slightly on his side. Henry stood off to the side, arms folded, eyes steady like a commander awaiting debrief. "Sir, who are you?" asked the female officer. "Henry Wyatt. Retired. Former federal operations." The officer blinked. "Retired from?" "Field work. Behavioral observation. CIA." Lena gasped faintly. "Dad." "I told you I did consulting," Henry murmured. The officers checked ID's cheap fakes in plastic sleeves. One of them misspelled enforcement. They found a retractable baton clipped to one of the vests. Not illegal on its own, but deeply suspicious. As the suspects were cuffed and stuffed into the back of the cruiser, neighbors gathered. A few clapped. One man cheered. "Should have seen what he did to him. Just like in the movies." Another woman, trembling, walked up to Lena. "My nephew's autistic. What those men did," she shook her head. "It's unforgivable." Lena hugged Noah close. "It is," she said, her voice shaking. The officers took statements. Henry gave his like he was filing a routine mission report, no dramatics, just facts. Then he said something that made both officers pause. These guys weren't acting alone. You don't just print fake uniforms and knock on doors unless you're part of something bigger. And he was right. The investigation uncovered a coordinated extortion ring. The 2 men were part of a multi-state scam that targeted vulnerable households, single parents, seniors, and families with special needs kids. They impersonated HOA officials, delivered fake fines, and used intimidation to collect payment. One of the men's phones had a list of addresses. Next to Lena's, noise, kid, mother, passive. The video of the incident had gone viral overnight. By morning, it was everywhere. Fake HOA enforcers assault autistic boy taken down by retired CIA grandfather. News outlets picked it up. Some called it a masterclass in calm justice. Others dubbed Henry the Gray Guardian. He declined every interview. The men were convicted in federal court: assault of a minor, impersonating an officer, attempted extortion, and conspiracy. 15-year sentences. The courtroom had gone silent when Lena gave her statement. "My son doesn't say much," she said. But after that day, he started humming again. It meant he wasn't afraid anymore. Not because the world suddenly got better, but because someone stood up for him. Henry just watched. No expression. No need. At home, life returned slowly. Noah's trains now traced bright paper trails inside the house. Outside, the city surprised them. A few weeks later, public workers showed up to paint a permanent mural on the sidewalk where Noah once drew. A smiling blue train. A dinosaur conductor. His favorite. A small plaque at the edge read, "In honor of every child's voice, no matter how it sounds." Inspired by Noah Wyatt and his grandfather, Henry. Lena wept when she saw it. Noah pointed and whispered, "Choo-choo." Henry visited every weekend after that. Sometimes with coffee. Sometimes with hand-carved wooden trains. He never talked about what happened. He didn't have to. One evening, Noah sat beside him on the porch, toy train in hand. "Thank you, Grandpa," he said softly, not looking up. Henry blinked. Then he reached over and gently placed his hand on the boy's shoulder. "You don't ever need to thank me," he said. "I'll always be there. That's what grandfathers do." The world would remember the video, the takedown, the headlines. But for Lena, the story wasn't about a viral moment or a heroic label. It was about something much simpler. A little boy who had been silenced by fear found his voice again. Because someone stood in the gap, quiet, unshaking, and unbreakable, and said, "Not this time."